Have you seen this book before? It was first published in 1992 by the Walter Foster Company. Within the pages of this book is described the drawing method most commonly used by Disney animators, which is to draw a simplified version of the character first, and then to add the details of the character on top, erasing the simple shapes as you go, or at the end when your drawing is finished. In this real-time demonstration, I'll draw one of the characters from the book, Flounder the fish. I'll make a simplified version of him first, and then I'll add the details on top of my simple shapes and erase the simple shapes as I go. If you'd like to follow along with me, you can download a border template, which is linked in the description below. In addition, you can also download the reference I'm using, which is taken from the book, How to Draw the Little Mermaid. The reference can be downloaded and printed, and like the border template, is linked in the description below. So, grab your pencil, your eraser, and let's draw Flounder the fish, that great character from the 1989 Disney movie, The Little Mermaid. So, I want to draw a circle first, but what I want to do is remember how big I should make it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start over here today on this right border, and I'm going to come in towards the left and I'm going to make a sketch mark, which I want you to make right now. Okay, so I'm going to draw, as you can see here, a vertical sketch mark. And what you should be doing is judging the distance from my sketch mark to my border and trying to make sure that you have the right distance there. Okay, now I'm going to make that a little darker so you can see it. Okay, so I want the side of my circle this close to my border. Okay, over here I want my circle to be a little further away. I'm thinking of a spot, maybe here. So if I come across my reference point, I'm thinking of a spot about right here, and I'm going to draw in another vertical sketch mark. It's going to tell me about how wide my circle is. A lot of beginning students, when they draw, they just draw a circle, but instead, I want to know how big it should be before I draw it. Okay, let's look for the bottom of our circle. I'm going to look at my bottom border right here, and I'm going to come up. I think I want to come up about this far away. And I'm going to sketch that in like this, horizontally, like that. Okay, top. Now I want the top of my circle to be a little further away from my top border. So as I look at this, I want you to judge this distance as well. And I'm thinking it should be maybe something about right here. Okay. Now, a circle is going to fit within a square or rectangle. So you can see that I've developed this type of square or rectangle here. And it tells me how big I want my circle to be. Okay, let's go ahead and sketch in a circle. So here I go. I'm going to try and draw it really light and of course really round. But I think I mentioned to you before that on my first try on a circle, I'm usually not that great at it. And it takes a few times of me going around my circle for it to kind of become correct and be the right size and shape. So let's take some time on that as we start this. Remember, this is the official Walt Disney method, and this is how they want you to start a drawing, is to make it simple and of course light at the beginning. Okay, now I'm going to go over that circle, and if you notice, you might think that my circle is really sketchy and kind of messy. That's okay. Your simple shapes at the beginning of a drawing should be kind of loose, sketchy, a little bit messy. That's just fine. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about that. and I'm ready to move on. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to draw a line that shows me where the center of his face is going to be. Now he's not looking straight at me, so that's going to be over here on this left side. So I'm going to go across from my reference point, and I'm going to put a mark about right here. Judge that for me. How far away is it from my reference point? How close is it to the side of my circle? Make that judgment. Okay. Then in this location, I'm going to draw a curving line. It can't be straight. Okay, it's going to curve. I'm going to curve it up like that, and then I'm going to curve it downward as well, down until I hit kind of the bottom of my circle, maybe about right there. I'm going to go over that a little darker so you can see it. Now make sure it's curving, not straight. That'll help you out a lot. Okay, now I'm going to draw another curving line across my circle, but this one's going to be near the bottom. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom of my circle. I'm going to go up and make a judgment, and I want to make a mark. See how light I make my mark as I figure that out? I'll make it a little darker now when I'm sure about right there. Okay, and that's straight up from the bottom of my circle. Now, I don't want to draw this line straight across. I want it to curve kind of like this one. So I'm going to have this line kind of curving upward over here, and then curving upward over here as well. Now I'm going to go over that a little bit darker so you can see it better. And something really cool happens when you put a curving line on a circle. What happens is your circle changes from a circle, and it makes it look more like a ball, which is a three-dimensional object. So with those two curving lines on your circle, you've got kind of a ball developing. Okay, very good. I'm pretty happy with how that's starting out. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to draw his jaw and his cheek. Okay, now look at this for me. This is my bottom border. I'm going to come up, put a mark about right here. Just kind of a horizontal sketch mark, as you can see. Okay, put that mark there for me. Now I'm going to come over here to my left border. I'm going to come in, judge this distance for me. See, I'm judging this really light at first, and I'm going to put a mark, vertical mark about right here. Make that a little darker for you to see it. Okay, so the two marks I'm looking at are this one and this one. Okay, now I'm going to attach this jaw and cheek to this circle like this. Now start right here on the side of my circle, a little above where this line touches, like about right here. I'm putting a little mark, I'm going to start about right there. And I'm going to curve out and down a little bit until I hit my vertical line right here, just like that. Then I'll stop for just a second. Just kind of a curving line that comes off this circle, comes toward my line right there. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the other side of my circle where my curving line touches the side of my circle right here. And I'm going to come down, going to come off my circle. See how lightly I'm sketching this at first? I'm going to make it curving, and I'm going to bring it down until it hits that mark right there. Then I'll stop for a second. Now I'm going to go back and make this a little darker so you can see it. Curving line off the circle down until I hit right there. Okay. Then what I want to do is just basically connect these kind of with this motion here. I want to connect that like this. Now I'm going to put that in super light right now. You can see those two lines connecting to each other right there. See how light that is? I'm going to make that a little darker for you. And a reminder, if I'm making something dark, I don't want you to do it. I'm just doing it so you can see it, but it's always best to keep your drawing nice and light. Now that's starting to look like a fish already. Okay, good. Let's move on to his nose. Now, most students, when they draw a nose, they just guess, but I'm going to put some marks on here so that you can see. Right here inside my circle, I'm going to put a slanted mark like this, which I'm going to make dark so you can see it. Right there. Okay, that's going to be the side of my nose. Now, over here, about this close, here's the side of my face over here. About this close, I'm going to put another sketch mark. I'm going to do that light first, right here. Make that a little darker so you can see it. Okay. Then, up here near his face, about this far away, I'm going to put another slanting type sketch mark right there. Okay. And I'm going to put one more on here. I'm thinking of a spot maybe about here. Another slanting sketch mark. Okay. Now what I like to do when I draw is I want to know how big something's going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an oval that's going to touch those 4 marks. Okay, let's go ahead and draw this together. So here's my oval coming up here like this, touching that mark there. Touching my mark here. Now remember, take your time on this oval here. Touching my mark right there. Okay, now I'm going to go over that a little darker. Now what you want to do is make sure your oval touched those marking lines that you made. Okay, that's a nice looking nose for my fish. Okay, let's draw his mouth. Now, for his mouth, here's the bottom of my fish down here. I'm going to come up just a little bit, maybe about this far, and I'm going to put another mark. It's kind of under the nose and close to the bottom of that shape. Okay. Alright, let's just draw this in. I'm going to start at about right here, near the bottom of the nose. I'm going to curve it up, get it about this close to my circle. See that little curving line I'm making right there? Okay, and I'm going to stop for a second. Touching the nose again, I'm going to come down, hit my mark, turn it, and then I'm going to connect it like that. And as soon as I do that, this simplified sketch, it already looks like Flounder the fish. Okay, nose, mouth, see how they connect together. Now take your time, see how his mouth is curving, that gives him a happy expression, which we want to have right there. Okay, I'm feeling really good about this so far, and I'm ready for a fin. Okay, let's put some marks where we know our fin's going to be. This is my left border right here. I'm going to come in just a short distance from it. I'm going to put another vertical line. Sketch that for me. Okay, then this may surprise you, but I'm going to come inside the nose near the tip, and I'm going to put another mark right here. I'm going to make that a little darker, as you can see. Okay, I think I'm ready to draw this fin. Okay, now take a look at how I do this. I'm going to start it inside his nose, and I'm going to go up. I'm going to hit the side of his face over here. Then I'm going to keep on going up, like this, and then I'm going to start to curve down just a little bit until I hit that mark right there, and I'm going to stop there for a second. Okay, this is the top of my fin. I'm going to go over this a little darker so you can see the top of my fin right there. Okay, back inside his nose, I'm going to go down, and across. I'm going to stop about there when I hit the side of his face. And once I hit the side of his face, I'm going to change direction with the line, and I want it to go up. I'll do the super light like this. I want it to go up and kind of make a corner right there. Now I did that so light you can't even see it. Now I'm going to go over that for you. This will come up like this and hit that fin, making the fin kind of sharp at the tip. That gives me a nice fin shape, as you can see. Make sure you notice how close I made that fin to my border. Okay, now I think my fish needs another fin. Alright, now here's what I want to do. I'm going to let this border right here help me position my fin. Okay, let's do a vertical line over here. Let's make sure our fin is this close to our border. Put a vertical line right there. Notice how far away it is. And about the same distance from my bottom border. Maybe something like this. Okay, I'll sketch that in like that. So now I know where the edge of the fin is going to be here, and the bottom over here. And then I want to guess where it's going to start. It's going to start somewhere on this line, this curving line that I have. And I think I'm going to come in about, judge this, about this far. And I'm going to make just a curving little line like that that's touching this line here. Okay, so my pin's going to go from here to here to here and then back here. Alright, let's draw this shape slow and careful. I'll start here at the top of the fin, and I'm going to curve downward. And then I'm going to start going out to the right, drawing it as light as I can at first, and I'll go over it in a second, until I hit this right there. Okay, now let me make that a little darker for you. So you can catch up with me and get that fin right there. Okay, now back to the top of my fin. Now I'm going to go down like this. I'm kind of showing you the motion with my pencil before I draw it. Okay, here I go. It's going to curve downward, hit the edge of my body here. I'm going to keep on curving. I'm going to go down until I hit this line right there, then I'll stop for a second. Go over that a little darker for you. There you go. Okay, and then I just need to connect this right here with this type of motion. It's going to be a curving line, and this fin is not going to be sharp. See how rounded it is at the bottom? And this will come up and be rounded right there too. Okay, that gives me a fin. Go over that one more time with you. Noticing the shape, being patient, making sure it's close to my border on the right and at the bottom. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Now, he looks a little strange up here. We need to add a little piece to his body. Now, if you still have your horizontal sketch mark that you use for the top of your circle here, and if you still have your vertical sketch mark for the side of the circle here, it's going to almost be that shape. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it like this. I'm drawing kind of like the top of his body. And then over here, instead of being a sharp corner, I'm going to make it just a little bit rounded. Okay, like that. And then instead of this line being straight, I'm going to make this a little bit curvy. And I'm going to come down and connect it to about the same spot where this vertical line touches my circle, about right there. Okay, now I'm going to go over that again. It's kind of straight at the top, rounded at the corner, and then curving like that. There you go. Okay, I think that's looking really, really good. Okay, now if you've seen the movie The Little Mermaid, you may recall what Flounder looks like. He's got some stripes on his body. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a simplified shape in here to represent where those stripes are. Most beginning students just try and draw it. but let me show you how to find its size first. Okay, first spot. You see this curving line where it touches the top of your circle right about there? If you put a little mark right there, that'll be the first place you need to look at. Where this curving line touches the top of your circle, that's where you need to look. Okay, then look at your reference point. Let's go across from it to the right about this far away. Let's put a mark there. Okay. Remember this curving line across the circle? Let's go up from it about here. Okay. I think that looks okay. So I've got 3 so far. 1, 2, 3. And then here at the back end of his body, let's put a mark right near the edge of it at the top right there. Okay, so let me review those marks. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want to draw a shape that touches those 4. Okay, I'm going to sketch super light. So from here, I'm going to draw a curving line from mark number 1 towards mark number 2, but I don't want it to be straight. I've got to add some curve to it. Okay, see that curve? Okay. Then from mark number 2, I'm going to keep going down, kind of straight now. And when I get down here, I'm going to make this a little bit rounded right there and touch it. Okay, reviewing that from 1 to 2 to 3 with a little curve. Okay. Now back here, I'm going to go back to the top of his body and start here, sketching downward. It's going to go kind of like this. Let's look at that. Here we go. Down like that. There we go. I'm going to stop right there where it hits my circle for just a second. I'm going to go back here and sketch. See how light I do that at first? I'm looking at that, wondering if it's okay. Yeah, I'm going to darken that in a little bit and make it darker so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, very good. I think that looks really good so far. Okay, next thing. I've got a big fin that I'm going to put up here on the top of his body. Okay, now the method I'm going to use is the same one that I've been showing you here. I'm going to put some marks. Top border. I'm going to come down, judge this distance, maybe this far, and I'm going to draw another horizontal line, making it a little darker. This will be for the top of my fin. Okay. Now, remember this line showing you the center of his face? We've used it before. I'm going to come down from the top of my circle to a spot about right here. And I'm just going to make a small dark mark right there. Okay. Now, remember this part where I added? I'm going to put a dot inside it, about right there. And I'm going to make that dot bigger and darker for you to see. Okay, now I'm going to go now from this spot to this dot with a curving line. Let's draw it super light first like this. Okay, and I just sketch it super light. Get in that habit drawing it light. Now I'm looking at it. Okay, let's make it a little darker so you can see it really well. And you can check yours to make sure it's coming along nicely. Okay, good. Alright, let's do the end of this fin. It's really easy. Just a slanted line that goes up, but not too big. Let's make it about right there. Okay, so this will be the bottom of the fin, side of the fin. Okay, now this next shape's a little complicated. I'm going to sketch it in super light. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go up with this light line. And I'm going to make it curving. But I'm going to stop before I get to this line here, maybe about right there. Okay, now I think I'm about to draw the hardest line of the day, so make sure you're paying close attention. Alright, Now I'm going to do it super light. It's going to go like this. It's going to go up and touch and then connect like that. I'm just kind of showing you the motion first of all with my pencil. Okay, here I go. So from here I'm going to go up, hit my mark right there, and then stop for a second. Make it a little darker so you keep up with me. Okay, then I'm going to take this down, sketching lightly, making it nice and curvy, and I'm going to connect it to the edge of that fin. Now you can barely see this line. That's how yours should be at first. I'm going to make that a little bit darker, like this. And I'm going to go right to that tip, right there. Okay, really good. Now there's just one more thing to do. I'm going to go over that fin just a little darker so you can catch up with it. There's one more thing to do, and that's to add a tail. All fish, they need tails. They can steer. Let's go ahead and put one in. Now, a beginning student would guess on it. Let me show you again what I'm going to do to find its right location. Here's my border. I'm going to come in about this far, draw me a vertical sketch mark, somewhere in here, like that. Okay, come to your top border, come down, maybe this far. Let's put a horizontal sketch mark. Okay, now let me show you something that's going to help you. I'm going to put a mark where the tail crosses the body right here and right there. Okay, 4 things to help me. Vertical sketch mark, horizontal sketch mark, this one and this one. Okay, so let's start connecting them together and see what we have. I'm going to draw this one in here first, a curving line like this. I'm going to go up, get a little curvy at the top, hitting my mark right there. Notice that carefully. Okay, coming back down, I'm going to make it rounded. Going to hit my sketch mark right there. Then I really want to make this tail kind of slanted as it goes up here. And I want my tail to get skinnier as I come up here near the top of it, like this here. I'm going to go over that a little bit darker, just like that. Okay, and there's the shape of my tail. Okay, and there we have it. That's a great start to a drawing. That's using the official Disney method, drawing it simple first, and then making it a little more complicated. Okay, get out your eraser if you will, and let's clean this up just a little bit together. Okay, now if you notice all these horizontal and vertical sketch marks that I made, it's time to get rid of those, because those were temporary. So let's erase together some of those. I'll get rid of this vertical one by the tail, this horizontal one up here by the top of my tail. Now erase with me here. Let's make this look even better. Down here at the fin, let's get rid of this vertical one and this horizontal one. Okay. Down here at the bottom, got this other horizontal line. Gonna get rid of that. Over here for this fin, I got a vertical line right here. Getting rid of that. Vertical line right here that showed me the side of his face. Now you can go ahead and erase right there inside that fin. Like that. I see a little vertical line kind of inside his nose here. Okay. Vertical line right here for the side of that circle. Coming up to the top, horizontal line for the top of the fin. Okay, I see another line or two inside this tail. I want to get rid of those as well. Okay, now another thing we can do right now is kind of see-through, and we can get rid of some of the see-through stuff to make our fish easier to work with. For example, over here, inside this fin, we have part of his face right here. Well, his fin is actually going to be behind his body. So what I'm going to do right here is erase part of the fin that's inside his face. So let's erase that together as well. And part of the fin that's inside his nose, of course. And right there also. Okay, good. Same thing over here. I'm going to erase part of his body right here that's covered up by that fin. Now, see how your drawing's looking a little more simplified and even more recognizable as Flounder the fish. Now, up here, I'm going to erase kind of inside this big fin, like that. Get rid of that carefully. And I'll erase up here so that fin, I can see that fin clearly as one single type of shape. Okay, let's see if we can find anything else to erase here. Part of my circle right here. Keep on erasing with me. And I also think I'm going to erase right in here just a couple other little spots that I want to clean up as well. Okay, I think that's a great start. And remember, that's the official Walt Disney method of getting started on a drawing, to make it simple first, and you should be able to have a recognizable image of Flounder on your piece of paper. Notice how on this particular drawing, what I've tried to do is I've tried to make these simple shapes in here that I'm going to work with, I've tried to make them just a little bit lighter so they're easier to work with. Okay, let's start out with your eraser. Now I want you to take your eraser and let's work down here at the bottom of the circle. We're done with it. So I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to get rid of the bottom of my circle. That was a great shape to start a drawing, but I think I'm done. Notice how there's a little bit of inside his nose. Getting rid of it. This line here that showed me the center of his face, I think I'm going to be kind of done with that too. I don't think I'll really need that anymore. I'll erase that. And I also think I'm going to erase this little line over here, the side of my circle right there. And I think I'm also going to erase most of this line that was going across my circle over here too. Okay. Now, the Walt Disney method, what they want you to do is to make a simplified drawing first, like this one, and then using the simple shapes as guidelines, they want you to put in the details. So let's go ahead and do that. So grab your pencil, let's work on some details. Now, we have this oval right here which represents Flounder's nose. Okay, so the oval tells us where it is. So what I want to do is I want to draw over it, or I should say draw over part of it, make it just a little more clear, and I want to detail it. So I'm going to start over here on this side, and I'm going to draw down, basically just following that simple shape line that I had. But I'm not going to follow the whole thing. I think I'm going to stop about right there. Notice that. Then I'm going to come up here, as you can see. I'm going to work on the top of it. Now, the simple shape, once again, is showing me about where I need to be. I don't want to detail the whole thing. I'm going to come down, to a spot about, right about there. Now, I'm going to make this a little darker, but I would recommend to you to wait until kind of the end to make the lines really dark. Okay, so that's kind of the nose shape that I want to work with. I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase part of my nose now, kind of the lower part. So I'm going to erase it down here, but I'm going to leave that mouth, of course. Okay, now if I want to, I can clean up any little simple shape marks that I may have had. And there I have it. I've got the nose of my fish detailed. And see how the simple shapes, they were a guide as to where they should go. Okay, so there's my nose. All right, now of course on this fish there's going to be details that we don't have simple shapes for. That's the case with this next one I'm going to draw. Now I'm going to draw right here, kind of touching his nose here, I'm going to draw a little wrinkle. I'm going to put a mark about right there where I want it to start. And when I begin to draw something new, as you can see here, I'm going to draw it super light in case I've got a mistake. So I'm going to put this little wrinkle in just right here, just like that. Okay, now I want that to be kind of curvy, not too straight, so I want to make sure I've got a little curve on that line right there. Okay, now I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. Feeling pretty good about that. I'm just touching that up just a little bit. Okay, so I've got a nose and a wrinkle, and I'm ready for an eye. Okay, now to draw this eye, I'm going to put a couple marks to help me locate it. It's going to touch my nose, about right here. So I'm going to put a little mark there. And I want you to put a mark on yours also. It's going to touch this wrinkle about right here. So I'm going to put a little mark right there, as you can see. Okay, so now I know about how wide my nose is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and draw that in now. Now, this eye is going to be an oval, and I'm just going to sketch it. It's going to come up here like this. It's going to be near the side of his head. And I don't want to go too tall with it, and I want to draw it super light at the beginning. I want to make it a little wider near the middle, a little more pointed near the top. And so I'm going to draw that like that. So that's an oval. Okay, now I'm going to go over that a little darker so you can see it clearly. There's the eye of my fish, as you can see right there. Okay. Now, there's a little detail on top of his eye. It's one little eyelash. So right here on the top, I'm going to draw just a small curving line like that, just kind of attached to the top of my eye, and that's the eyelash of my fish. Okay, good. Now, there's another little detail also near the top of the eye here. That's a little fold for his eyelid. Now I think it's about right here. I'm going to draw just super light first, just a small curving line like that. Okay, now I know that's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to make that just a little bit darker for you. Once again, that's the eyelid of my fish. Notice how close to the eyelid is. Okay, now I'm going to keep on working on this eye. I'm going to draw his pupil, or his iris, I'm not sure which one it is. But it's going to be right in here. Okay, you can kind of see my pencil going in this motion right here. And I'm going to sketch it super light at first, and it's going to be a curving line, like this. And that'll give me that detail right there. Okay, there's another detail. Now, inside this shape, there's a highlight, or I should say, a white oval. Now, I'm going to draw it super light right there. Then I'm going to go around it and make it a little bit darker. Okay, and then there's a little bit of shading. Now, I'm going to go ahead and shade this in, like this. So I've got that nice white highlight there in his eye. Okay, now that fish is already looking pretty happy. Alright, very good. So there you have the first eye of your fish. Okay, now the second eye is a little trickier. And most students want to draw two eyes exactly the same size. But as you're about to see, this second eye that I'm about to draw is going to be bigger than my first one. Okay, so pay close attention. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get out my pencil for a sketch mark again. I want to know how close the two eyes are together. Well, when I judge that from the side of one eye to the side of the other, I think they're about this close. So I want to put a vertical sketch mark here. I'll keep that sketch mark really, really light. Okay, good. Now I'm going to leave that there. Now I'm also going to judge the top of the eyes. Most students assume that the top of the eyes are straight across from each other, but that's not the case. This eye that I'm about to draw over here is lower. This is how I'm going to help myself. From the top of this eye, I'm going to draw, super light, kind of slanting down a little, a sketch mark. Okay. That's going to tell me that I have to draw the second eye a little bit lower on his face. The top of the second eye is going to touch this mark here. Okay, bottom of the eye. Now let me show you how I'm going to do that. See the end of his nose line right here? I'm going to draw really light. I'm going to pretend to connect this to the eye. And I'm going to draw it only about that far. Okay, I'm going to put a little dot right there at the end of my line. Now that dot's going to tell me where to start the bottom of his eye, and actually the bottom of his eye is going to rest on his cheek. Okay, this is a little tricky. So right here from this dot, I'm going to draw super light at first, and upwards curving line goes about right there. Now I'm going to go over that a little darker for you so you can see it. Okay. Now that looks a little weird. So I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase this slanted line that I had right there. Okay. Looked kind of strange to have that cheek connected to his nose, but I did connect them at the beginning to help me figure out where it was. Okay. Now that's probably enough information to get started on an eye. Okay. See this little curving line right here? On this line about right there, I'm going to put a little mark. Okay, that's where I want the eye to touch. And then, on the same curving line up here about right there, I'm going to put another mark like that. And that tells me where the eye is going to touch the line on this side. Okay, so now look at what information I have here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Tell me about how big my eye is. Okay, let's sketch it. So right here I'm going to draw this eye. I'm going to bring it over here and touch this line. I'm going to curve it up. I'm going to touch this line right there, as you can see. And I'm going to connect that. And I've got the shape of that eye, as you can see there. I'm going to go over that just a little bit, make that nice and curvy. Okay, now it's time to get out my eraser and then clean that up. I have to get rid of these kind of sketchy lines that I have, that slanted line there, vertical line right there, so a little piece of slanted line over here. My eye's a little messy, I'm just going to erase that just a little bit more. But that second eye is probably the hardest thing we're going to draw today, and there we have it. Okay. Now, just like my first eye, which I have over here, it's got a little eyelash on it. So let's put a small curving line right there at the top, just like that for an eyelash. And let's also do an eyelid. Now it starts about right there. I'm going to draw it really light at first, curving down. See how close it is to the eye? And I'll make it a little darker so you can see that well. Okay, fantastic. Now let's do another pupil or an iris in here. Now I'm going to put a mark about right, it touches the side of his eye about right there. And it touches the bottom of his eye or I should say the cheek, about right there. Now, when I draw things, I like to know where they're going to be. So that's why I put a mark where I think it starts and where it ends, and then I can just connect them with kind of a curving motion like this. I'm showing you that with my pencil here. Then I'm going to go over that a little darker now, like that. I want to make sure that's nice and curvy. It's not too, I don't want that to be flat at all. Okay, a little bit of touch up with my eraser right there. Okay, let's put another white highlight, oval. So inside here, about here, I'm going to show you where that is. I do it so light you can't even see it. I'm going to make that a little bit darker, like that. It's always interesting to see how strange the eye looks without the shading. So let's go ahead and let's add some shading to that as well, just like we did before. So let's shade that in. Just like that. Okay, boy, that is a happy looking fish, as you can see. Just going to finalize that just a little bit more. Got a small problem right here at the corner, just touching that up just a little bit. Okay, now I'm feeling really good about that. All right, let's work on his mouth. Okay, so let me show you how I'm going to do that. Just take a look one more time at those eyes there. Okay, now I'm going to go back to his nose. Here's the bottom of my nose line right here. Now I'm going to go slanting down towards the right, away from it, about this far away, and I'm going to put a little dot there for you to see it. Okay, now that dot tells me where I'm going to be starting his mouth. Now I kind of know his mouth is going to be over here, but I need to add a little bit more to it. Okay, remember his cheek right here under his eye? I'm going to come down from that. I'm actually going to draw an almost straight line about that far, and I'm going to put another dot at the very end of that line there. Okay, very good. Now, let's go ahead and sketch something here. I think before I do it, it looks really weird with this vertical line here, so I'm going to get rid of that. So I just have my dot there. Okay, now this dot right here is going to show me where his cheek is. Okay, so I'm going to draw that right now like this, curving down, and it's going to end up right near the corner of your mouth. About like that. I'll make that a little darker so you can see it. Okay, now pay close attention as we do this so you don't get lost. Okay, back to my curving line right here for his mouth. I'm going to put a mark on it about right there. Okay, and now I want to connect this dot to this mark here. And the line's going to be kind of curvy. And it should go down and kind of run into the top of your mouth. Okay, so I'm going to sketch this down like this, doing it really light. Notice I've got a curve to it. There it is. And I'm going to go over that a little bit darker now. Okay, I'm going to erase a little bit of my simple shape of my mouth right there. Now it looks like I lost a little bit of that line when I erased, so I'm going to put that back in, like that. Okay, let's finish off the mouth. We have a simple shape for it, but we need to change it just a little bit. Okay, back to the end of this line, come in a little bit to the right. I'm going to put a mark about right there. Okay, see where I put that. And then back here, I'm going to put a mark about right there. Like I said, I'd like to know where things start and stop. Now I'm going to connect those like this. Following my simple shape fairly closely, I'm going to draw in a very happy and curving mouth. I'm going to go over that a little darker with you. Just like that. Okay. Now, if you have any leftover lines for your simple shape mouth, Now is the time to erase them. And that's what I'm doing right now, is cleaning that up. Boy, that is a happy looking fish, as you can see. Okay, let's put on a tongue. Now the tongue's pretty easy. I'm going to put a mark about right there. And I'll put another one about right there. Just once again kind of showing me where it's going to be. I'm going to lightly connect those with a curve. And then when I detail it, I have to draw a line that cuts through the middle of it about that far, because the tongue kind of has a crease in it, like that, and like that. Kind of looks like an M. There you go. Okay, let's do a little bit of shading. So just inside the mouth, kind of above the tongue, let's shade this in, like that. Just shade that in carefully. Okay, now I'm really happy about the expression on his face. I think that looks really good. Okay, we need a little chin, or a lip, I'm not sure which it is. Now it doesn't show me on my simple shapes where to draw it. So if something's not there, I have to draw really, really light. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm going to sketch super light. And I'm going to kind of show you it's going to go like this here. Alright, so I'm going to sketch this. It's going to go below the shape of his body that I drew down here. So it's like this. I'm just kind of showing you. Really light at first. And that's a good habit that I've developed, is when I draw really light. Okay, you can barely see that. I'm going to go over that a little darker now. Notice how it's below your simple shape. That is important. Okay. I think that looks really good. Okay, let's do just another thing or two with you. Alright, I would like you to look at the tip of your nose of Flounder right here. And super close to it, not quite touching, but super close, I have my simple shape mark for his head. I want you to make sure that your head is really close to his nose. Okay, now I'm going to go over that just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to work on this line. I'm going to bring this up. About like that. This simple shape is really good, so I hardly need to make any changes to it. And I'll bring this down, really following my simple shape. Now as I go down, I just want to make sure that I tuck this line right under his chin, so it goes about right there. See that little mark I made? That's where I'm going to connect that. So with a nice curve, I'm going to come down here and hit that just like that. Okay, now with my eraser, I'm going to come down here and just clean this up just a little. Right under his mouth, I've got a simple shape. Okay. Alright, now, if you've been working with me, I think I want to erase one more thing, kind of a little simple shape on his head right here. I'll just erase that too. So if you've been working with me, you've got the hardest part of your drawing done. A nice face of Flounder, nice expression on his face, and you're ready to detail the rest of your drawing. The next detail that I want to work on are the eyebrows of Flounder. So you'll remember we have this reference point cross in the middle. We're going to use that to help us position his eyebrow. So what I'm going to do is just barely under it, I'm going to draw a curving line that curves up like this, and down a bit, up and over just a little bit to the left, and that's going to be the spot for eyebrow number 1. Now I'm going to make this eyebrow just a little bit thicker at this left end, and then I'll have it get a little bit skinnier as it comes down. Okay, now eyebrow number 2 is going to be a little bit higher. So I'm going to use a line. I'm going to draw a slanted line like this to help me position my second eyebrow and draw that nice and light across his head right there. Okay, then I'm going to go up from the side of his eye and to a spot about right here. That's where I'm going to start. You see that little dot right there? And all I'm going to do is draw a little curving line that curves over, curves down a little bit, touching the side of Flounder's head. And then again, I'm going to draw this end of my line just a little bit thicker, like that. And that gives me the two eyebrows. Okay, and I'm going to take a minute with my eraser and I'm going to connect that slanted sketching line that I drew. I don't need that anymore. And also, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to erase my reference point cross, just like that. Okay, let's move on to a fin. So we've got a great simplified shape for a fin. I'm going to go ahead and draw over the top of it because I don't need to change the top. So I'm going to draw over that just a little bit darker. And then when I come to this tip, I'll stop there for a moment. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to change the shape of this line. This is a simple line, and I need to make it a little more complicated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in just a little bit. I'll cut in like this, and I'll draw downward. Then I'll come back to my simplified shape line, and I'll come down like this and curve that around. So do you see how I made that line just a little different than my simplified shape? Now I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase that simple shape line. Okay, very good. Now we've got some thin sections. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to put a little mark right here, and this is where the section's going to touch the edge of the fin. Okay, I'll put that right there, and then I'll put another one right here. Okay, good. Then I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to put a mark about right there. See that for me? And then really close to it, I'm going to put another mark right here. So you see those 4 marks that I made? And then all I need to do is carefully, gently connect those together with a curving line. Okay, so I'll come like this, and I'm going to curve down right towards my mark. See how light I did that at first? And I'll draw over that, make that a little bit darker. Okay, good. And then my second one, I'm going to get that curving up just a little bit, like this, curving over and running into my mark. And that gives me the details for that fin right there. I'm going to touch that up just a little bit with my eraser. And there you go. Fin number 1. Okay, fin number 2. Now, the first thing I'm going to do with this fin is I'm going to change it here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw like a U shape right here like this. It'll curve down, and then it'll curve up like this. And this will give me a U shape like that. Okay, I'm going to take my eraser, and I'm going to erase my simplified shape right there. So you can see how I changed the top of that fin. Okay, so then I'm going to draw down the side of it. I do not really need to change it at all on the side. So I'm going to draw over that. And I'll come down here and I'll stop at the bottom. Okay, now what I need to do here at the bottom is I need to change this line just a little bit. So I'm going to follow it. I'm going to break away from it. I'm going to curve up, over, like this, and then I'm going to run into my simple shape again. Just like that. Okay, then here, let's change this just a little bit. We'll come down like this, bring that over, come across, pretty much on my simple shape line, just like that. And that'll give me the shape of fin number 2. Okay, I'll take my eraser. I'll erase that simple shape line like that. Okay, now just like on the other fin, there are some sections. Okay, so I'm going to come up here to my U shape, and I'm going to draw a little mark right there. Put that in for me, please. And I'll do another one right here. Okay, I'm going to come down here to the bottom of my fin. I'm going to come at the bottom, and I'm going to put a mark about right here. I'll mark that. And then also at the bottom, I think I'll mark it about right here. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to draw down like this with a nice curve, not straight. I'll come down. I'm drawing towards my mark, just like that. I'm going to go over that just a little bit darker. And I'll sketch that in for a fin section. Okay, now this one I'm going to come down like this, really close to that line I just drew. Then it's going to break away. And I'm going to come over like this, drawing right towards that mark. Okay, now do you see how lightly I did that? I like it pretty well. I'm going to go over that just a little bit darker, as you can see, right there. Okay, got that fin done, looking great. Now, I'm going to finish off the bottom of his head here. My simple shape line is excellent. I'm just going to draw over that just a little bit darker. Got that finished off. Just like that. Okay, now while I'm at it, I'm going to finish off the back of his body shape. This is basically, my simple shape is basically really good. I'm just going to put a little bit of a curve right there into his body. I'll follow it up, bring it around, and I'll connect it to his tail. Okay, nice. Touch up that simple shape line just a little bit. Okay, great. Tail. Now, this shape I have for my tail is pretty good. I'm just going to change it just a little bit by curving in just a little like this. Pretty much following my simplified shape. I'll bring it up. I'm hardly making any changes to it. I'll come down. Once again, I think I drew that well. And I'll bring this down like this. And then here at the bottom, what I want to do is I want to draw kind of straight like that and have it connect to his body. So instead of following that oval around, I'll just have that connect right there. Okay, touch that up. There you go. Okay, I've got to put some tail sections on. Okay, so I'm going to put a mark. My first mark is going to go right here. That's mark number 1. I'm going to put number 2 right here. I'll come down for number 3 right there. And number 4 right there. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to draw up with a nice curve, and I'll touch his tail edge right there. Okay, next, I'll start here. I'll just curve over a fairly short line like that. Okay, this one, I want this one to go up just a bit and over, touching right there. And this one, I'm going to have it curve up just a little, go over, and touch his tail edge right there. Okay, very good. I think those sections are looking great. Touch that up just a little bit right there. Awesome. Okay, now the hardest thing to do is this one here at the top. Okay, so let's take our time and let's sketch it in as carefully as we can. Okay, so I'm going to start here at the bottom, and I'm going to change this line like this. So I'm going to come up, I'm going to follow it, then I'm going to break away from it, not too far, and then I'll come back and finish right there at that point, just like that. Okay, do you see how I changed my line? Grab my eraser, and I'll erase that like that. Okay, I want to make sure that his head is connected to that fin right there. Okay, then I'm going to come up about straight up from this point to a spot right there, and I'm going to put a little dot there. Okay, and then I'm going to draw this other side of this fin section. It's really skinny. It's going to come down, and it's going to go right towards my dot that I made right there. Okay, now take your time. This fin is kind of tricky. Okay, let's do another section. I'm going to come up this line. I'm going to stay connected until I get to a spot about right there. And then I'm going to break away. Okay, see that like that? Okay, so I'm going to come up now, breaking away, drawing lightly, curving line. I'll come up right there and touch my simplified shape. Take out my eraser. Going to erase this simple shape line right there now. Okay, good. Now let's continue. Now from this point, I'm going to draw a slanted line about this far, and I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to draw another dot right about there. Okay, so then I'm going to connect those together like this, keeping this shape fairly thin. I'll come up and connect right there. Okay, good. Let's continue. I'm going to come up this line to a spot about right there. I'm going to break away from my line. I'm going to come up, be really close to that fin. Stop right there when you hit your simple shape line. Take your eraser out. Erase that section like that. Okay, back here, let's draw a slanting down line, really short, about that far. And then we'll come up to a spot. I'll put a dot about right there. Okay, and I'm going to draw a thin shape, just connecting these together like this, nice and thin, just like that. Okay, very good. Let's keep on going. I'm going to come up this line here. I'll stop and I'll put a mark right there. See where I put that. Okay, then I want this line to slant like this over until I hit my simplified shape. Okay, take my eraser. I'll erase right here. Okay, now I'm going to modify this shape just a little bit like this. So from here, I'm going to curve in just a little bit like this here, and I'll curve it right out there to the corner of that simplified shape. Get my eraser out. I'll erase that line right there. Okay. Now, the bottom of this fin, I don't need to change that at all. So I'm just going to draw over that like this. Drawing across. There we go. Okay. Now the problem is this fin still has some sections that I need to draw. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from this spot right here. This is a temporary line, and I'm going to draw it so it's not quite straight, but it's going to slant down just a little bit right there. Okay, this is where I want to draw a fin section. Take my eraser and I'll clean that up. Okay, and here I'll come down this fin that far and I'll put a mark. Okay, and then I want to connect those two. My line cannot be straight, but it's got to be curving like this. And I'll draw towards that mark right there, giving myself a thin section. Okay, traveling up this line, I'm going to go about this far. Traveling down this line, I'll go about that far. And again, I want to draw a curving line like that. Okay, let's keep going. Go across this line to a spot that's about right there. I'll put a mark. Down this line, I'll go to a spot that's about right there. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a nice curving line like that. Okay, last section line, I'm going to come across this line to a spot that's about right here. And then this line is going to be a little more slanted right there. Okay, so then I'll draw like this. Once again, it's got to be a curving line, curving over like that. Now that was a difficult fin to do. Okay, very good. All right, now the last thing we need to do is we need to put on some stripes in this general area right here. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do it. I've got this nice simple shape which is going to help me. I'm going to alter it just a little bit, and I'm going to start my shape right here. Okay, and then I'm going to end my shape right here. Now, I can't draw straight. I've got to make a nice curve. So I'm going to follow this simple shape line up like this, coming over. I'll break away from it just a little bit, and we'll connect like that. Okay, now that's a nice curving line. And we don't want that line to be straight. Okay. Then I'm going to erase my little simple shape line that I had there. All right, now what we can do is we can actually use this fin here to help us draw our stripes. Okay, so what I want to do is see where this fin touches the bottom right here. This fin line touches right here, and I'm going to put a mark there. Okay, that's where the stripe is going to finish up. Okay, so it's going to come up like this. It's going to be kind of thin. It's going to come up, and then it's going to get a little bit wider all of a sudden, like that. Okay, now do you see how I did that? I was rounded at the bottom, came up, got a little bit wider, and then I want to draw with a nice curve like this, just like that. And you see how light that is? I put that in to make sure I wasn't making a mistake. So let me draw over that just a little bit darker so you can see that better. Nice stripe on his body. Okay, now stripe number 2, that's gonna touch this fin like right here. Okay, good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw down, following this line here, the angle of it. I'm going to come down like this, keep coming down till I get to the bottom of that simplified shape. Okay, that looks good. Now, I'm going to use again this fin to figure out where I should draw the end of the stripe. And that's going to be right here. And I will put a mark there. Okay, now this is a difficult line. Pay close attention. I'm going to come up like this, skinny. Then I'm going to break away and get a little bit wider. Come up right there, stop. Now I'm just going to connect this again with a nice curving line. I drew that super light like this. Okay, there you go. Draw that up right there, giving me stripe number 2. Okay, stripe number 3. That's going to touch this fin right there. Okay, again, I'm going to draw down, basically at the same angle. I'm going to get just a little bit closer to it. I'll come down like this. I'll pay close attention. And I'm going to stop about right there, and I'll make it a little bit rounded. Okay, then this stripe is actually going to touch his back right there. Okay, so you see right there, and then I'll just come up like this, curving line, drawing right towards my mark, and I'll hit that right there. Okay, one more stripe. Okay, this close to the stripe I just finished right there. And this stripe is going to touch his tail right there. And I'll put a mark. Okay, so this will come down. Be very close to that stripe I just did. I'm going to come down about that far. And I'm going to stop. I'm going to curve it up. And I should be running into my simplified shape right there. Just like that. Okay, good. Now I'm going to take my eraser. I'm going to erase this simple shape line like that. And there you go. A drawing of Flounder the fish.